How is everybody doing on this wonderful Wednesday? It's not Wednesday where we are, though. Is it, Liz?
Nope.
Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast, episode number 54.
Yep.
On the Launchpad Media, always launching ideas in your direction. I am, as always, your host, Nikki P., here with my lovely wife and co-host, Lizzie.
Howdy.
Howdy? That's what they get?
Yep.
That's fine. So we're going to do things a little different today because we were real busy. Didn't really prep the way we normally would.
We are just a couple days post Porcfest, and let me tell you that did change a little things in our routine there.
Honestly, we could have prepped. I just didn't want to. I'm lazy.
You wanted to fly by the seat of your pants?
I did.
I wanted to have an adventure.
I wanted to come on here and kind of parse through some of your thoughts on Porcfest.
My thoughts on Porcfest?
Yeah.
Porcfest was awesome.
There's going to be actual questions. Don't just get to do this all willy-nilly. We're doing this interview style.
All right, well then, okay.
So, to get it out of the way, there's going to be no I heard this happen this week.
What?
Nope.
Okay.
You know why?
Why is that?
Because one of our good friends, the Crypto Man. The Crypto Man, is that how you say it?
Sounds about right.
The Crypto Man went and released some new music.
Snap.
Did you remember that happened?
I did. So we don't even have to go digging around for fresh new music for y'all. It's all right here.
We don't? I see. So, if you go and look up Jinx Inc. Game Over, you get to see the Crypto Man talk about video game stuff, apparently.
I'm okay with that.
Tyler's a former guest on the show, probably before we got picked up by Launchpad. His goes way back. He sounds like Liberty's favorite Vermont rapper.
Indeed.
So, the track features Ryan Sammartino, or Ryan Kuhn, Mike Cirillo, and producer Jesse Kreis, or Stir Crazy.
Hey.
And apparently it's video game stuff in there. I think he plays Zelda.
Yeah, it seemed very, very nerdy and geeky, and I could appreciate that.
It does. And what's more amazing is that he chose to release this while he was stuck at a place with no internet connection. And I don't know that he bothered to tell anybody but us.
We're going to go ahead and let y'all know and spread the word.
Yeah, seriously, go and show Tyler some love. He's a listener of the show, a good friend, and a former guest. Should probably link to that in the show notes and stuff the first time we had him on.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think he also, believe it or not, runs for office in Vermont, which is its own sort of weirdness.
I think that also sounds like a good idea.
What's he going to run for next, do you think?
I don't know.
So, at any rate, let's bring it back. So, Liz, what was it like spending so much time around a bunch of crazies like your husband?
I mean, honestly, the people were the best part of Porcfest, and that's saying a lot because, I mean, the scenery was gorgeous, the programming was interesting, and there were lots and lots and lots of options of things that you could do and buy and explore and experience. But yeah, I would definitely say the people were very cool all around, and I was excited to get to meet so many Liberty type peoples.
What was the most off-putting thing about Porcfest?
I don't know. It's a little isolated, I guess. I feel like that's kind of what we're going for, but
I don't know that being isolated is something I want.
Well, no, it's just that the Wi-Fi is comparatively spotty if you're from the city. And, some things like water and, it's camping. That stuff is possibly in flux from day to day.
It definitely ran out of water the one day, and that was odd.
But
which is really confusing because of all the rain that we got the day before.
That happens in any camping situation. So again, I can't really fault Porcfest.
Not any camping situation. Some camping situations, you go in there with no water to begin with.
This is true.
Water's not something you're going to see.
That's right. So it was relatively luxurious. There were showers, there were toilets, there were things that were handy.
There were some pretty nice amenities there.
Oh, like the open bar was awesome.
Yes, if you go VIP.
For reals, though, totally worth it.
So, how about as a parent going?
Oh, I mean, our kid had a blast. She did not even take advantage of 1/10 of the kids' programming, and she still had a blast. She met all sorts of kids from all over the world who were, sort of liberated in their own way. Able to go wandering about with her.
We'll give a shout out to Love Java.
Yeah.
I don't know that did you actually catch her name? Do you remember?
No, I remember all the kids' names, honestly.
Okay.
I unfortunately am not as good on the parents' names. There were lovely kids and lovely parents, and you guys were awesome.
No, anyways, shout out to Love Java, whose daughter was Irma's best friend, apparently, up there.
Mm-hmm.
So she kept her pretty engaged so that I didn't have to. Which allowed me to go and do the things that I needed to do.
And we did do some meeting other libertarian folks, other podcasters that we'd only otherwise met in cyberspace. So that was awesome.
So you got to meet the Lions of Liberty. How do you feel about meeting the Lions of Liberty?
I thought it was awesome. They were very cool dudes.
How about Jason Stapleton?
Also a cool dude.
Being more generous than perhaps I would be.
Perhaps.
It's a little standoffish.
You
seem nice enough.
General, unless you're like nerdy or in a specific conversation that I am in, I don't expect you to have a reason to talk to me. So.
I expect everyone to have reasons to talk to me. My shining personality being probably the most notable.
Fair enough.
If you had to pick a favorite lion.
If I had to pick a favorite lion?
Yes, I'm going to make you pick a favorite lion.
That's ridiculous. They're all so cool.
That's what you're going to stick to? They're all so cool?
Mark was super nice.
Mark was nice.
He was.
Odie's also really nice.
Also really nice.
Is nice how we judge people?
I know it's probably an overused descriptor for people, but it means something to me. So, yeah, okay with nice. Howie was awesome.
Is there a lion that you would fear me spending more time with?
No. I'm sure... We talked about this already. I'm sure you and Howie could totally kick it and get into a bunch of trouble, but I imagine that you'd also find your way out of it friggin' better.
Howie is a previous guest on the show, as are, I believe, Brian and Mark, correct? We still have to get Johnny Odermatt on.
That would be awesome.
And Roger Paxton, now that he's free of Porcfest, we got to get his ass on the show.
That would also be awesome. And he was super cool. It was so cool to meet him and his wife. They were just...
I'd party with Roger, too, for the record.
The nicest people you could imagine.
My takeaway is that I need to live closer to Roger Paxton and Howie Snowden.
Well, there you go.
I like those people.
They're
takeaway talkers.
Is if I'm moving to New Hampshire, I want to move somewhere where there's a little bit of civilization.
Well, I'm supposed to be getting photos and
don't actually put me on the side of a mountain, apparently.
From Jay Catano, who we participated in a podcasting panel with. I think that was my best thing, our favorite thing. We did that podcasting panel, and there was so many people that kind of came up to us and wanted to talk about starting their own podcasts and starting their own businesses, and
that's what it's about, isn't it?
To me, that is what it's about. It was a very interesting, dynamic to be, I guess, an expert, quote unquote, on something. It was also interesting, to sit there around so many people that have come in at different points in the Liberty movement to do the podcasting thing.
Yeah.
Did I ask you what was the most off-putting thing?
About Porcfest in general? Yes, you did.
Okay, what was it?
I said just like the general isolation.
Okay, no Wi-Fi, that's
camping,
right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What was probably the most interesting thing you saw there?
I mean, besides the people. Because, I mean, you just threw out that we met Jay Catano, which he was also awesome. Really excited to meet him. And Dan Smots. Melon Farm and Smots.
Dan was very quiet the entire trip because he was playing video gopher for the Lions.
Which he was totally doing a kick-ass job of.
He was. It was a good time.
Yeah. But it was really cool to meet him in actual reality. Cool.
I agree. Mm-hmm. So, yay or nay on going back?
Yay or nay on going back? I would go back in like a couple years with a bit more preparation. I would totally go back.
All right. How about the 12-hour drives there and back?
Yeah, fuck that. To be completely honest with you, we're going to have to figure out another way of doing that. Did not work out well for me at all. I lost my phone because I was half asleep and I put it somewhere. God knows where.
Yeah, Liz, we already addressed it. It's called preparation.
It's inside a freaking bear right now,
didn't
apparently.
prepare for that.
But yeah, if we figured out, more preparation and had a better way of doing that, then yes, I would totally go back. I would be super excited to meet people that I met there and meet new people and have more Porcfest experiences. Yes.
Okay, so what experience are you most excited for Irma to have had?
I mean, she got to kind of be on her own reconnaissance a little bit during the week, and that was pretty cool because she made some choices, and some of them were good choices, and some of them were not probably the best choices she could have made, but she learned from them, and we all got to experience that. That was super cool. And like nothing dangerous, nothing ridiculous. Honestly, it's a super, super welcoming and safe place for kids to wander around and explore. It was awesome.
Somehow my daughter picked up, Dad, I need $20. Well, she was
right.
I'm not so excited about that choice.
I just mean stuff like if you only eat candy all day, you're probably not going to be feeling all that awesome after a while.
Yeah.
Those kinds of choices, and she's 5, so you don't really recognize those things at that age unless you have the actual experience of being able to be free to let's just wander around and eat candy.
Got some multiculturalism. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're all sorts of people from all over, and I loved meeting people with different cultural backgrounds and.
For a one rainy day, Irma was hanging out with a young lady from England of Polish ancestry.
And she was just brilliant and hilarious. And
it was freaking hilarious.
And it was very cool.
I mean, there were moments of racism in there, but it was childhood racism, so it's not the same thing.
I have no idea what you're talking about there, but again, it comes back to
you're
people,
full of it.
Awesome.
It was the most adorable racism ever when she's sitting there talking about the Mexicans.
I have no idea.
Get this Mexican garbage out of my face.
Nope, no clue.
I'll take your word. She was talking about spicy food.
Oh, okay. Well, some Mexican food is spicy.
I know, but it was just the way in which she said it.
Okay.
Get this. She had such a thick Cockney accent, and she was like 8.
I don't think it was Cockney. It was British, but
yeah, no, it was Cockney.
All right, whatever.
She was chewing her words a lot more than like posh English does.
If you say so. Cute. Very cute.
It was adorable racism.
Oh, God. Anyway. But yeah, again, it comes back to the people. I saw Jeffrey Tucker. I actually spoke to him because I just couldn't resist talking about the ridiculous suits and the boatman hat and bow tie he insisted on wearing the entire time.
That's Jeffrey Tucker for you.
And I just did my heart good from a fashion perspective.
How about the music, since we are a music podcast?
The music was awesome. There was all sorts of stuff there. I mean, people brought their music, and then, Jordan Page, literally brought the house down. I don't even know when he stopped playing. He was just
he played a long fucking time.
Going and going.
I hope they paid him well for that show.
It was like he just was like, oh, you want a show? Well, all right, I'm gonna give you the show. And yeah, he totally went for it. And I think he was very much enjoyed. We actually missed his second show. That was just the first show, but there was a second show that he played.
Yeah, we took off a little early. It was that 12-hour drive butting up against you having to get to work seemed like a problem. So we chose to leave on Saturday as opposed to Sunday morning like we thought.
Well, I mean, and you have the freedom to do that with this type of event, which is awesome. And
we were there. We got there Wednesday morning, and it's a busy week.
It was a busy week.
I'm still a little tired from it.
So much stuff just crammed into, and awesome.
So we've done Porcfest.
Check.
And I'm going to throw it up there now. You know what that means. We got to start prepping for Childeberg dose.
Oh, snap.
Yep. I don't even know that they're planning on doing it yet. I don't know if any of the balls are rolling. But I'm going to be there.
There you go.
And I'm going to be playing music at Childeberg dose.
Okay.
Perhaps it's just going to be wherever I choose to have it.
Am I taking
over Childeberg dose planning?
Oh, God.
I believe it's supposed to be coinciding with the 2020 Libertarian National Convention.
So that would be in Texas, no?
Yep, and that's where we're going to go see your daddy.
That's true.
We have to go. I promised Liz we'd go see your dad.
Yeah. Which is important to me. He's not my age anymore. He's my dad's age, so there's that. Gotta take those chances when you can.
There's chances being taken?
Something like that. And honestly, he's kind of on the libertarian. Every time I talk to him, it seems like he's a little bit more, that libertarian stuff. I remember. That Ron Paul, he said some good stuff.
Which is funny because, it sounds like every post-serviceman.
Well, yeah.
That is Ron Paul's demographic.
Absolutely.
People that were once in the military.
Yeah, that is totally him.
Apparently that will affect how you look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any other news we kind of need to get out of here real quick before we get to our fantastic interview with Joe from... You don't remember where Joe is from, do you, Liz? The Anarchitecture Podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by a cat.
It is a cat. Enzo, what are you doing? You putting your butt on mommy. Maybe she doesn't want cat butt on her.
Yep, that's what he does. Ow! Oh. Okay, well, there we go.
So you wanted to put cat butt on her and then assault her. That's how cats do, folks.
This is what I get. This is what I get for taking care of you, I see.
I know, but there's no other news that we need to cover?
No, we should absolutely cover things. You did a live freedom songs of freedom show.
Yeah, that was all right.
I think
I'm looking to perform that out more. If you're looking for a fun, liberty-themed musical act, I've got one.
There you go. And I think it went over well, and it was really fun to listen to.
Just make sure you're not quiet during it. That part sucked.
Well, people didn't quite know how to take it there. This guy plays bars. You can talk during the thing and interact and whatnot.
If you are interested in the podcast panel that I was a part of, it is currently available in the Lions of Liberty Pride on their Patreon feed, which I can tell you right now, it was the audio quality is not that great. But it was a great panel. We had a lot of fun. Apparently, like the guy who directed that particular section of the event came up to me later and he was like, "We really should have booked you guys for 2 hours up there. That was ridiculous." Apparently, the hour that they had us for was just you couldn't contain all of the hilarity.
It was fun to watch. I'll tell you that. All you guys playing off each other.
And I don't know when the live version of Do Nothing Man is coming out.
Oh, good God.
That is worth it if for no other reason than Jason Stapleton. What is he, Clapper?
Yeah, it just...
And Howie playing... What was Howie's character?
Something about honey. But he's playing a chick. So there's that.
Yeah, the honey pot was Howie.
It was an experience for sure. It was pretty hilarious.
I just remember the clapback. There's too many good jokes. I was literally dying watching them do this thing. It was so freaking hilarious. Do you think it was funny, Liz?
I mean, I just, the fact that Jason Stapleton will now forever be associated with ass clapping in my mind is something I owe to that performance there.
And if you guys are not hip with the Lions of Liberty Pride, like, I'm a member. I recommend everyone go and join because they have a lot of really good high-end quality shows and programming in there. The Do Nothing Man show, which I wrote the theme song for and got to perform live, was fucking just amazing. So, God, it's just I'm rambling, but I feel like there's just so much to talk about.
And Freedom Song 365 is still going on. If you want to jump on board, and take that
archive
train.
Is getting huge now too.
Yeah, there's just a ridiculous amount of information. So many songs, a lot of them Billboard hits, and some of them you performed this past week. And totally. We need to get out and around more libertarians more often, because that was probably my favorite part about the whole thing was just being around
other libertarians,
people who get it.
Yeah. Just all those people. I texted my little brother during it, and I'm like, there's so many guns. Everyone's open carrying. And we're not talking like, they were like fashion accessories there.
Yeah.
Like, there were some people that had brought different guns for different days to work with different outfits.
As you do.
It was pretty, like, the one guy's like, I brought my long gun, I brought my shotgun, and I brought my handgun. Mm-hmm. And I'm just feeling out the day which one I need to be carrying. And hilariously enough, my cop brother texts me back. Damn right, the way America should be.
There you go.
I think that's just because he has a death wish, and the more people carrying is the more people that he could potentially get in a firefight with.
Or
no, I mean that Lance is a lunatic. Oh, good God, did I say his actual name? Anyways, folks, well, I guess without further ado, let's get into our interview with Joe from the Anarchitecture Podcast. Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty Podcast. There, what are we gonna call you for the sake of this? What are you going by?
Just call me Joe.
That work?
Call you Joe?
Yep. Joe from Anarchitecture, I suppose.
Nice. And what is Anarchitecture?
So that is a podcast that I do with my brother, who happens to be an architect. He's an architect, and I'm an engineer.
Mr. Smarty Pants over here.
I try. So we talk about the built environment from the perspective of libertarianism, ANCAP, whatever you want to call us. Mm-hmm. So we cover stuff like zoning, eminent domain, you'd be shocked at the amount of heavy-handed. Well, you probably wouldn't be shocked, but the amount of government regulation at all levels that impacts sort of the way that we build the world around us.
I wouldn't even be remotely surprised.
Yeah, so we are trying to...
Have you ever looked at an NEC manual?
NEC? What's that?
The electrical manual. It's all the codes that you have to go for.
National Electrical Code? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in Australia, and it's like whatever they've got in America, they've probably got it
3 times thick.
Yeah, it's there's like an exchange rate in the money. It's pretty much like that same exchange rate on the regulations. It's like everything's like 30% more pain in the ass.
So why Australia?
So my wife's from here originally, from Adelaide.
Okay,
that's where I am. Yeah.
And you just said, honey, it sounds so great over there with all the oppression. Let's go back where you're from.
Yep. No, the way it happened was I didn't really become sort of full-on libertarian until right around the time that I moved down here, which was just kind of coincidental because it was 2008. It was kind of around the time of the Ron Paul thing. And I think I was actually reading Ron Paul's book, like on the plane over to Australia.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, I had read like the way I kind of came about to all this stuff was I had read Atlas Shrugged when I was in college back in, around 2000. And then it sort of, registered, but I never kind of went whole hog on it. And, I had some issues with some of Ayn Rand's stuff. And then, around the time of the whole Ron Paul thing, like Tim had sort of been listening to some libertarian stuff in New Hampshire, like on the radio. This guy named Gardner Goldsmith, who had a radio show there.
He's got Gardner in his name. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Tim sort of came around to this stuff a bit earlier than I did, and he kind of said, "Oh, hey, check out the Mises.org, check out the Ron Paul book." And so I was sort of in that process at around the same time that I was moving to Australia. So, and then from there, a lot of dominoes fell.
I imagine being in a place that's even more oppressive than the U.S. would be a little odd for that beginning transition when you first find. It's like when you're first transitioning and you're like really gung ho on the ideas, and I imagine that's got to be different not being in the United States.
Yeah, it's weird because if you look at any of these like freedom, the freedom indexes and stuff like that, where they rank different countries, Australia is always above the U.S. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, what the hell is this? Like, where did they get this from? Because it seems to me that it's just that there's no way that Australia is more free
from
than the US.
What I imagine, and what happens a lot is that in a lot of those countries, it boils down to economic reality, and the fact of the matter is because of how we regulate businesses, like the way we tax income for businesses really, really affects our ranking. Like if we did away with the corporate tax, we would probably shoot way up, which is why all of those Scandinavian countries are higher than us, because while they have generous states taxes and the high income taxes, they don't tax corporations, so they're really, really good for businesses. And that's kind of like a multiplier in that, because businesses kind of multiply around the freedom, like to maximize the freedom for everybody by their sheer existence.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and that's the thing is in the U.S., it seems freer there, just I think mainly because of technology more so than any of the actual kind of legal situation. Because you've got like just with Amazon alone and Ubers and Airbnb and all this stuff. Australia's catching up on a lot of this stuff now, but for a while there, Australia was like 15, 20 years behind that kind of technology.
Well, and I don't know what Australia specifically is like. One thing that the U.S. does have also is that we have a lot of open space.
Yeah.
So
Australia's got plenty of that.
Does it? I know they got the outback, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing is that, like, the landmass of Australia is basically the size of the continental U.S. And the population of Australia is like 24 million at this point, which is like the population of kind of New York City. And so you figure that you've got that many people spread across the entire landmass of Australia, but it's everyone's kind of crowded around into some cities along the coasts, and there's just nothing in the middle. There's a bit of farming in the sort of the southeast and in the sort of the eastern states, but out west is like the whole state of Western Australia is just desert, and Northern Territory is a bit like that too.
Interesting.
And it's pretty uninhabitable up there. So what you've got up there is a lot of remote gold miners and iron ore miners and stuff like that. So there's all these remote mines out there, but there's nothing else around them.
Interesting. So one of the reasons I wanted to have one of you guys on is because you penned one of my favorite songs ever. Why don't you tell us about the genesis of that song as a place to start?
Yeah, so I've been listening to the Friends Against Government for a while, since they first started. Carl was actually one of our first followers, like on Twitter, and so he was sort of on my radar. He used to share our stuff early on, and I came across the Rollo and Slappy show. I think when they had Thaddeus Russell on, somehow that popped on my radar. And then I started listening to them, and around the same time I saw they had Car Campit as a guest, and I said, oh, I know who that guy is. Like he's one of our Twitter guys. And so I listened to that, and I found out he had this other podcast that they had just started with Bird. And so I've been listening to them for, almost since they started. And yeah, like those guys are just hilarious.
They are hilarious.
And so around the time, so we had just been sort of talking to them about setting up an episode. And right around that time, they came out with an episode where they said they were looking for a new theme song. I said, oh, we do our music for our podcast. And we've even recorded like episode 7 of our podcast. We wrote and recorded a whole song just for that episode. It's this James Bond spoof, and we got my dad to sing it. So it's got this kind of like, the sort of Tom Jones, lounge crooner kind of sound. So we're a little bit crazy like that we'll actually like record whole songs just for like one episode of a podcast. And so I heard them looking for a theme song. And I said, I could probably help these guys out. And so I kind of slept on it, and literally that night I woke up at 4 a.m. with this flash of inspiration, going like, it's got to be like a spoof on 80s sitcoms. And and I don't know if you've seen, there's this thing on you can see it on YouTube. It's called Too Many Cooks, and it's this brilliant video where they just spoof all the old kind of 80s theme songs, and it's all tied together in this really clever way. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind, that's sort of a spoof thing. And so I figured it had to be really like super cheesy. So I figured if I went Full House, sort of like half Full House and then half Cheers, like the theme from Cheers.
And that is 100% what that song is.
Yeah, totally.
Like, literally, like you executed.
It's beautifully cheesy.
I would have probably picked out those two songs to say that it reminds me of these two.
Yeah. So I had to. So that was kind of the mission, and it didn't take long. I was just lying in bed, by kind of 4:30 or 5 a.m. I think I had the whole song kind of running through my head. Yeah. And of course, once I got into, so I recorded a quick demo of it with just like the bit of piano and the lead vocal, and I sent it to Carl. I said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" He said, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. See what you can do with it." And so I figured like it had to be completely overproduced if it was going to be a real thing, because it was just so almost just for the irony of it, because their podcast is, I don't know if underproduced is a thing, but if there's anything that's underproduced, it's their podcast. And so I figured, okay, this has to be like completely over the top, horns, strings, all this stuff. And so I just did all the sounds in I've got a keyboard that does all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just pulled it all together and did all these. I think I had something like 40 tracks of audio that I used to put that whole thing together, and all these different backing vocals and everything. Which, for
anyone who's not a musician, and for what this is used for, that is an obscene number of tracks. Did you record live drums for it at all?
No, those are just sequenced, and I use the voice out of my.
I think that was my point. So if you didn't even multi-track drums, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly vocals, because I just layered on the vocals. So I did, it was 4-part harmonies, and then each part had 2 voices doing it.
I was in a metal band for a while, and we did this record, and I recorded all my own vocals, and I sent them out to the engineer, who promptly emailed my guitar player and asked him what the fuck he was supposed to do with all of these 25 layers of vocals.
Yeah.
But it was all that's, double tracking each vocal part, and there's some deep 5-part harmonies in some of the sections, and then you got to divvy up the different styles of singing into parts.
Yep. Yeah, and it doesn't take long. Like with the Friends Against Government thing too, I think I did like some kind of different voices on some of the things too. Like I did the there's that first part which is meant to be like a spoof on Michael McDonald. He's the guy from the Doobie Brothers. It's like, you don't know me, but I'm your brother.
Oh, I know Michael McDonald.
Yeah, I mean, come on, who doesn't?
We're yacht rock people over here, so
we were just discussing. We mentioned this in because we did a sort of intro. We released that Friend Against Government episode on our feed. We did a little intro to it. We were talking about this, and we were saying how Michael McDonald is really the godfather of rap because that song, was it the Nate Dogg and Warren G used sampled him on Regulate. Yeah.
Oh, so I am guessing you've never watched the web show Yacht Rock?
I didn't know it was a web show. Like, so there's we cracked a joke about that on that thing because I've seen, I don't know, I've just heard stuff about Yacht Rock on on YouTube or whatever.
I will send you the links. There is a web show. You can probably watch the whole thing in maybe 45 minutes. It's like 12 episodes. Yeah. The entire thing follows a fictional best friend relationship between Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald. It just features all of the soft rock of the 70s, like Steely Dan makes an appearance.
Yeah.
And I don't know when it was recorded, but the show, like, it has like Doug Benson, Wyatt Cenac, like all of these like comedians. What's it? Chris Gefford's, otherwise known as who's the guy who did the Sailing?
Christopher Cross.
Yeah, Christopher Cross.
Yeah.
Oh, Christopher Cross. Yeah.
He appears in episode 2, and he saves everybody with his song "Sailing." He's played by Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame.
Okay. Yeah. See, I've never even gotten into that. I don't watch anything these days.
Yeah. But the whole thing is you're watching like Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald be best friends in the 70s, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, well, here's a question. So I know I obviously I know you from the Friends Against Government podcast and writing the cheesiest song I've ever heard in my life. What actually are your musical tastes, though?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm all over the place. I mean, I don't really do it by genre. I'm more, so like my brother and I have both been writing songs since we were like 14, so we've been playing music since we were, piano lessons from age 6 on, and then kind of guitar around age 14, like during the whole grunge revolution thing. And we've been writing music and playing since then. So the main thing I look for in music is just good songwriting, and I don't really care like what genre it is or what it sounds like. So for example, like I'd say that like Fish and Tool to me have more in common than like Tool and Creed do, or than like Fish and Strange Folk do. Or maybe I should also say Fish, like early Fish and Fish post sort of 2002.
So you're acting as if
dialing it in.
You're acting as if Fish writes songs.
They did at one point.
Yeah, it was called A Picture of Nectar, and it all was downhill after that.
That's pretty much right. Yeah. But
how do you go from A Picture of Nectar and then give me Run Like an Antelope?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know. Some of this, and even some of the stuff on like Rift, like the Rift album's not bad. There's good stuff on there. There's
good stuff on all of them, but like,
But they were just dialing it in at a point. I think what they did is they sort of sold out to the fans, where it was like, instead of creating complex, interesting music, we're just gonna do stuff that's easy to jam on. And then we're just gonna like we're so good at doing this improv jam thing.
Never ever saw the Northern Lights. Never really heard a cluster of flies. Yeah. Well, I don't know why that album even happened, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know. I stopped listening to them after. I think the Hoist album was the last one that I sort of gave them any rope.
In fairness, I did actually like their most recent album. But
I started listening. Is that the one that's like the Big Boat or something?
Fuego is when that was. Maybe they've had one since then. Even I don't think so. But
I was wondering, like, so I was just looking them up on Spotify the other day. And yeah, there's this one called The Big Boat, which was like 2016. and I listened to half of it, and it's sort of, I don't know. There's probably a couple of decent tracks on there, but they're just dialing it in. They're just not trying anymore.
Well, I mean, you go back and you listen to like Stash and all that kind of shit. Like that was interesting music.
Yeah. They were totally doing something new there,
So,
but yeah. So beyond say Fish and Tool, I would say I don't know. I mean, we got into all kinds of all the classic rock stuff.
Are you guys big Ween fans?
Nah, never got into them.
See, that's a little surprising based on like some of the stuff you've said.
I think I've just never really. They just never really came across my radar. There's some stuff like that. So like They Might Be Giants. I got into them a bit when I was in college.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know how you missed Ween. Like literally, one of the reason it really surprises me because like when you talk about like the songwriting side of it. There's an interview I actually read with them, and they asked them, "Why do you guys record everything with 8-track players?" And that's what you do. Yeah. And he said, "Well, because it forces us to write better songs because we don't have the ability to produce them to perfection. So you have to start from a better place. Like you can't just write a mediocre song and make it sound great. You actually have to have a good song, otherwise it goes nowhere."
Yeah, you can't just be like, "Oh, we're gonna add some moogs here or something like that, and then that's gonna give it the sound that it needs." It's like, well. But that's not the songwriting, is it? It's like if it's a song that deserves that, then great. But
I work from the exact opposite place. I'd rather it sounds cool, and I could give a shit if it's a good song.
Yeah, I kind of go both ways. I mean, I like writing a good song that kind of just stands on its own, but at the same time, I'm totally like I'm the keyboard guy that just wants to put every sound into the song. I'm like, oh, I've got this some xylophone sound on my keyboard. Let's try to stick that in somewhere.
Yeah, xylophone's nice.
Yeah. We've done we've got this one track. So we've got a band that we've been playing since we were about 14, 15.
How does that work? Are you guys both in the same spot, someplace else?
When I say that we've been playing, I mean we started playing then, and we occasionally play now. And we don't really play together. So we had, I went over there in October of last year, which was our 40th birthday. And we did, our whole thing for our birthday was like, okay, we want to get the band back together and like play one show. And we actually learned 6 new songs in a 3-hour jam session. And then we played them at our birthday party for everybody. And so, which was pretty cool. It was a really good time, and we recorded it. It's on our so we've got the band right now is called Diametric, and so we've got diametricband.com, and we've got this on the website. The album's called Late to the Game, which is a line from one of the songs, and it was a good time. We played those kind of 5 or 6 songs. We kind of pulled it off, and then we played a bunch of cover songs that we just had not practiced at all, and some of these songs I've only heard maybe 3 times. Like we played this one Bill Withers tune that I've heard maybe 3 times in my life. But it came together. It was what it was. Nice.
That sounds like a party.
It does sound like a party.
Yeah, it was a good time. And you can hear the tracks on the webpage. So
awesome.
But we have tried to do some recording over the years. We gigged a bit when we were in high school, mostly just playing stuff like school talent shows, and there was some like a coffee house thing in town that we would play at. There was a few other events that would play around town. But then once we all went to college, we pretty much stopped playing live just because we couldn't get our act together to actually practice and play. But for a little while, we were living. So my brother and I, who both play guitar and keys and sing, and our drummer, we had a house or an apartment together in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we were living there for a couple of years. And at that time, our drummer got the Roland V drums, the electronic drums.
I've got a set right next to me.
Yeah, they're fantastic for recording. And so, especially if you're in an apartment, because you can't really play drums in an apartment unless you've got something like that. So we were actually, we set some stuff up and we started tracking We recorded 8 songs at that time, which became the album, which we've now got out, which is called Cities of Sand. And again, that's on that website as well, diametricband.com. And so that stuff is really, I think, that's like our kind of flagship album, I guess. That's really probably some of our better songwriting, and the production on it's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportSLL.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
Where do people go and find your guys' music? Well, he said the diametricband.com.
I know, I'm trying to get him to repeat it.
Diametricband.com.
I'm trying to force his hand on this.
Just in case. I did set up a thing on Bandcamp too, but I haven't put anything up there yet, so I'll do that at some point.
You got to go through DistroKid, man.
DistroKid? Yeah.
DistroKid is how I'm doing all of my my stuff from here on out, because it's relatively affordable. And like I think I pay maybe $120 a year or something like that. And I have up to 10 artists that I can release unlimited music under the names.
Okay.
So it's pretty sweet. And the distribution's good. Everything's got to be on Spotify or you don't exist.
Yeah. So I was going to say, does that get you onto Spotify if you're doing that?
Everywhere. Spotify throws you up on YouTube and Google Play. Although I have one album I got to find out. I can't find it on YouTube, and it's upsetting to me. I'm wondering if it's because, like, we're so something.
Yeah, I don't know that they're onto you.
Right?
I probably said something that, like, got me too'd. I don't know. Anyways, so what's the best concert you've ever been to?
I don't know. I've been to a lot of good ones.
Rub it in, why don't you?
I've been to so many good ones that there's just no one that stands out. No. I think one that I saw which was really kind of stands out was I saw Moonboot Lover in Boston. This is probably around 2000, 2001. Just at a little club. And I don't know, have you guys heard of them?
Nope. What is this? David Bowie tribute?
Moonboot Lover. No, it's basically sort of soul R&B.
I'm in.
They sort of travel, or at least back then, they sort of traveled in the sort of New England or Northeast kind of jam band scene.
Nice.
But the main guy, I can't remember his name. He's just crazy. And like watching him play live, when I was sitting at that show, I'm watching this guy. I'm going, man, this must have been what it was like to see like Jimi Hendrix play. Like he's just that into the music. He's just that sort of consumed by it, and he's just not. And he's a good musician. He sings like his voice can sound like almost like Al Green. You know, he's got he can kind of do that falsetto thing, but he can also kind of just rip it out and do a rock song. Yeah, no, they're really good. Their album, what's it called? It's got Alien Vacation on it, is one of the songs. I'm trying to think.
Did you say Alien Vacation?
Yeah, Alien Vacation is the first track on the album. It's a good song. It's all about how we're a vacation site for the aliens.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, but they're great. Yeah, and seeing them live, like they're crazy. We saw Tower of Power live at Hampton Beach in New Hampshire a while back. And, you know, they're just a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, seeing them live, I was sitting there watching them and I'm going, man, like you could watch something like this, or you could go see like a DJ spin record somewhere, like at a dance club. It's like, you know, that's not the real thing. Like this is real music right here. You know, like the amount of musicianship and and sheer energy that those guys bring to the stage.
Let's not discount all DJs
Because
because there's always
It's just-
goldfish.
it's just a different thing. I don't even know what that is. That like an EDM thing?
Goldfish. I mean,
I don't even know what EDM is, to be
they're
honest
tough
with you.
to
I've heard you
pigeonhole.
guys talk about it.
Goldfish is it's one of my daughter's favorite bands, believe it or not. But they're a South African band. They're a South African DJ duo.
Okay.
The first time I heard them was on a Kia Soul commercial. It was their song Fort Knox, and it was like this really catchy bumping song that the hamster was bouncing to. And so I was totally way into it. But what's interesting about them is that they're a DJ duo. But like the one guy plays live saxophones and flutes. And the other guy plays like live upright bass and piano for their sets.
Yeah.
And so it's this weird and like the music is like old 30s and 40s jazz inspired dance music. So it's just
That's cool.
Yeah. While I do think that you can totally just be a boring DJ and make stupid electronic music, there are people out there like doing interesting things with that. You know, they treat it like
cool.
they treat it like music, just a different type of music.
Yeah. I mean, I like stuff like Afro-Celt Sound System, or I think they call it just the Afro-Celts, which is where they take sort of African music, Celtic music, and then sort of like electronic dance. And again, these like all the music I know is from like 20 years ago. So like if I'm saying any of the stuff and you haven't heard of them, they're just old. And
You're not that much older than me, bud. So.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but like those guys have some pretty cool stuff. And I can get into some of that stuff. I'm not knocking that whole genre altogether. I'm just saying, like, you know, that there's live music. And
he's
then
throwing
there's,
hot takes. That's what he's saying. He's here to pick a fight, and I'm all about.
I was gonna
fights
say you
being picked.
love it. You love getting catty. Come on now.
I do.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know,
my
I
favorite part about Tom Woods' show is that he's not above getting catty.
Yeah, I guess my challenge to anyone then who wants to go up against me on that one is just go to a Tower of Power concert, and I think you'll see what I mean.
All right.
Right on.
So,
Yeah.
how does you obviously you still perform when you can. How does like music, like broader music, fit into your life? You know, obviously you've got to seem like you have a pretty busy life. It's not like you're an adult. You've got a job. You got a career. You have a podcast. You have a wife.
Yeah.
Those things take up time, right?
I mean, these days, the sad thing is it's probably the podcasts that take up, my music listening time these days. And I think I should probably just cut back on the podcasts and try to inject more music into my rotation.
Or you could just tell people to listen to more politics and music podcasts. Wink, wink.
That's true. I could do it. Yeah. But we've just got Spotify, like the family plan, like 2 weeks ago. And so I've started listening to more stuff on that. I think what I'm going to do is make a rule that like after dinner, no podcasts, just music. And, when I'm doing the dishes or something like that. And then that way it kind of, settle me down for bed. And then I'm also kind of catching up on all my music there.
I do think Spotify, as far as like finding new music, is probably the best tool out there. Because it does the stuff that a lot of the other music companies do, but it does it way better. Yeah. And I put Spotify off for a long time myself. And when I finally bit the bullet, I'm like, I really should have done this sooner. Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's more about just catching up on old stuff. That's like, I should have listened to this a long time ago. Like, so Marvin Gaye came out with this new album like a few weeks ago, which was, it's all stuff that's been released before, I guess, but they put it out as a new album. And I'm like, oh, cool, new Marvin Gaye album. I got to check that out. And then I'm like, hang on. I've never actually sat down and listened to what's going on, like as a full album. It's a really, really good album. I have no integrity, So we got it on Spotify, and that was like the first thing I put on was what's going on. Nice. That's a heck of a first album to listen to in any medium. Yeah. And and then I'm like, there's all this other soul stuff I got to get into, some Bill Withers and some. Do you listen to any of the more modern soul stuff?
I liked that one. There was one that you guys mentioned a few weeks ago. That French guy, Alexis something.
Okay, Alexis Evans. This is pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Like he really hit that kind of sound.
Oh, for sure.
Which is pretty interesting.
St. Paul and Broken Bones is actually one you'd probably get into if you're into.
Yeah.
He's.
I do like.
He's more of an Otis Redding kind of sound though.
Okay. Yeah. I like Wolfpack.
Oh,
Everyone
yeah.
likes Wolfpack.
Yeah, I mean, they're just cool and
they're shithead musicians too.
Yeah. Doggone flute solo. What the heck is this?
It's not a flute solo. It's a
piccolo solo.
No, it's a clarinet.
Oh, clarinet. I'm so sorry.
Their song "Back Pocket" I love for no other reason than it has like actual clarinet
Is it like
music.
a duet kind of solo in it?
Yeah, it's like a two or three clarinet section, and you don't hear clarinet music anymore. That was so awesome. It comes out of nowhere.
It's a cool instrument though. Like in the right context, it's really cool. It's almost like.
And I'm
it's almost got that saxophone kind of sound, but not quite.
Well, for so many years, I mean, you think Benny Goodman was a clarinet player. He led his band as a clarinet player. It has its pedigree as far as like an instrument being used as a lead instrument.
I mean, definitely back in that big band period too, like with Duke Ellington. Yeah. Duke Ellington, he'd use clarinet on leads and stuff too.
Yeah, and it's anachronistic because we don't use it very often anymore.
Yeah.
And I always liked it because it is such a it's a sound like a saxophone, but it doesn't carry the power or squelchiness that you're capable with on a saxophone. Like you can get dirty on a saxophone.
Yeah.
Like it's clarinet I don't find as easy to get dirty on. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to really focus on your melody and just get a cool sound out of it.
So
I'm a fan of the clarinet, properly used.
I think any instrument, if you use it properly, can be a useful instrument.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe, what's her name? Britney Spears. I don't think that instrument has a real place. She should have just been Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
So, all right. Where are we at, Liz? What's the next one we usually ask?
Soundtrack moment.
Oh.
Soundtrack moments. Yeah. So, I don't know if I want to go with. So I could go with some song that reminds me of something, but I think what I'm going to do. We had so when we were in high school, I think our senior year of high school. We had a couple friends that died in a car accident.
Ooh, heavy.
Yeah, and that night we were scheduled to play a show at this coffee house. And we were all like, geez, do we play? Like, is that respectful? Like, what do we do? And we decided to play the gig. And it actually turned out to be really cool because it just gave people a place to come out and sort of, I don't know, just kind of be together and I don't know if commiserate's the right word, but the whole thing was kind of solemn and somber, and but we had some other friends there that played too, and they got up on stage and played a few things, and it was just one of those sort of things where it was all about just kind of getting people together and giving everyone sort of a place to go, and that was a pretty powerful musical moment for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine that would be.
Yeah.
Anytime people are dying, it's going to carry some weight.
Yeah.
I don't have many people dying in my world.
No. Well, luckily since then it's been pretty good for us as well. But we had another show we played, which was a graduation party for a private school in New Hampshire. And it was on like a mountaintop in Vermont somewhere, and it was like this. Someone's family owned this like farm on this mountaintop in Vermont, and they had us playing there. There was this ska band called Big Lick, which was playing there, which they were kind of a big ska band in Boston at the time.
I like the name.
And so we were up on stage, and the party ended up getting busted. and like some neighbor called the cops because like, you know, some band was playing too loud or something like that, you know, I don't know. So the cops come, and of course there's all these underage kids, and the parents had actually like bought kegs for the kids. So like the parents at this place had actually like supplied alcohol to the whole party.
Oh jeez.
And so the cops came, and it was this whole thing. They're breathalyzing everybody and all this stuff. And of course
that's back in the era where that wasn't a big deal though either, isn't it?
Well, it made the papers. like this thing. The parents got in a bit of trouble. But the great part was, as soon as the cops showed up, we started playing I Fought the Law, like the Clash version
Oh jeez.
of it. And that was pretty good, pretty powerful moment for us as well. But the cool thing too is that we were like, you know, the cops are coming around. Oh, you know, we're breathalyzing people. Like, oh well, we're the band. You know, we're not part of this. We're part of this party. We're just a band. So, okay, you guys.
I'm getting paid to be here, man. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So
that reminds me of, I used to work at a beer distributor, and I'd sit and I'd package cases all day of like beer that got fucked up in transit, and I always wondered, there's no way if I get pulled over on the way home, the cop is gonna believe that I'm not drunk off my ass, because I just literally smelled like a brewery.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm officer. I work with this stuff. I really should have taken advantage of that and just gotten loaded all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, right on. Well, that brings us to the big one, Liz.
Yep.
5 albums, my friend.
Yeah. So I've been pulling my hair out over some of this. Just not because I can't think of any, but you know, again, it's one of these
too many
things
and narrowing it down. And
trying to narrow it down. I'm going to go with some that I think people probably haven't heard of, but that were pretty instrumental for me, kind of my musical development and sort of the stuff I really got into. And again, this is all stuff that's 20 years old, just because I haven't listened to any new music since then, pretty much.
Right on.
So my first one is a band called God Street Wine. Their album $1.99 Romances. And these guys are probably one of the most influential bands for me in terms of songwriting and stuff. Back when I was in high school, they're pretty much a jam band, but they're very much focused on kind of songwriting, and they're just solid. And this album $1.99 Romances is really good. It's kind of, you know, stylistically they hit a lot of different notes, and they're you know, good singing, good composition, good guitar playing, good keyboards and all that stuff. So that's one to check out.
Cool.
Number 2, I'd go for Rustic Overtones. Their album, I'm torn between 2 of their albums. So Rooms by the Hour is really good. The one I'm going to go with is Viva Nueva, which was I think it was the album they did. I think they got signed to some major label, and then this was the album they put out on that. And it's just like the first 6 tracks are just like super funky. And I
like funky.
And these guys, have you heard of Rustic Overtones?
I have.
Okay. Yeah, so they were kind of like, they've always been on the forefront of kind of what's happening in music. Like they were doing kind of the ska rock thing before that was a big thing. And then once like No Doubt came out, and you know, these guys had moved on to more of a funk rock kind of sound. And then this album is just kind of, they really matured, and you know, they've got horns. This album's got some synthesizer stuff on it, which is pretty cool. And it's just really kind of hard, heavy, driving funk tracks. But they're also really eclectic with their songwriting, and you know, they'll do some pretty experimental stuff as well. All right, my next one is a band called Thanks to Gravity, which is they're from New Hampshire. Yeah. I think the way I would describe them is sort of avant-garde prog rock, I guess, which they've definitely got their own sound. So the lead guy plays acoustic guitar, but also violin. And he does all the songwriting stuff too. But they've also they're also pretty synth heavy, and their stuff is just cool. So their album Slingshot is probably the best one to listen to first to get into them. And it's sort of a retrospective of some of their earlier years where they kind of came back to the studio and re-recorded a bunch of tracks that they had recorded previously. It was sort of the album that they put together, to get them noticed by like a major label. And I think they may have gotten signed by someone at one point, but then they put out kind of one album. Like all the bands I listened to in high school went through the same arc where like they put out some great stuff, and then like they finally got signed by some record company. They put out one album on that thing, and then they broke up. And then maybe a few years later they got back together and put out some kind of crappier albums after that. And that's definitely the case with these guys. But their album Slingshot's pretty good. It's if you like prog rock, I think you can check these guys out, and you'll like their sound.
Nice.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
And I like synthesizers a lot, so I was sold to many synthesizers.
Yeah. These guys do some pretty cool synth work.
So synths, cool name, prog.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's trifecta.
So next one, I'm gonna dip my toes back into the jam band a little bit with a band called Percy Hill, and they're also from New Hampshire.
Interesting. I've never heard of them.
So their album Color and Bloom is just phenomenal. And again, it's got that kind of jam band vibe to it, but this album, like if you listen to some of their earlier stuff, it's like, oh yeah, that's a jam band. This album is really more. Like I think there's some jam bands that are more kind of Grateful Dead influenced, and others that are there's sort of a segment of them that are more kind of Steely Dan influenced. And
I've never
like God
thought
Street
about
Wine,
that, but I like that idea.
God Street Wine is one of them. Like they've got a couple tracks that could be like on a Steely Dan album. Percy Hill, this album Color and Bloom, is definitely like a Steely Dan influenced album. I think it's their first album with Aaron Katz, who he had been in some other bands. But his songwriting is just a bit different. Again, it's real funky. And what's his name? The keyboardist, I think Nate Wilson is his name. His playing on this album is basically what made me want to get back into like focusing on keys as my primary instrument. He's playing, ripping it up on electric pianos, B3 organ, and Moogs and stuff. He does some ripping kind of Moog solos. And so this is just a kind of a great album, start to finish.
Awesome. Down.
Yeah. So my last one. Yeah, I'm trying to, I want to mix it up a bit to show the kind of the range of stuff that I'm into, I guess.
It's about versatility.
I want to show the range of jam bands that I'm into.
Nice.
But I mean, like I said, like Tool is also one of my favorite bands, so it's not like a genre thing. It's just this is the stuff I was into kind of at that time.
I did the beginning of 46 and 2 last night at my gig.
Yeah.
Somebody said, play some Tool, and I'm like, you see that I'm a guy with an acoustic guitar, right? Like, cool.
I think my brother and I once tried playing what's the song H on acoustic. We came up with some arrangement for that, which was kind of cool, but
nice.
I don't think I can sing that.
I like Maynard because it's so easy. It's just like you're either whispering or yelling. There's no middle ground.
Yeah. So for my last one, I would do probably something from like Porcupine Tree, but I figure like your audience has probably heard about enough about them.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that anyone has heard that much about them because.
Really?
Yeah, Tom Woods hasn't been on yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should put in a lobby for us.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
You got some sway over that little Tom Woods camp.
Yeah, are you guys in the in his like private Facebook group for the creators or whatever?
I'm not for the creators. I'm in his like general private group, and I always think about leaving because of the racism.
Oh, really? Is that going on there? Yeah.
Well, I mean, And he's never been racist or nothing, but there's definitely some of those types. Although one of the big ones did leave recently.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's the thing. Like all of those, like I try to get on Reddit every now and then just to like post something, and immediately you get swarmed by these like race realists or race and IQ people, and it's like, God, guys, like really, does everything have to come down to this for you?
I mean, one of the first, I think the only comment we ever got on BitChute was fraternizing with blacks disgusting.
Jesus.
And I'm like, and my natural inclination is to lean in on anyone who says shit to me.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to like go and take some graphic pictures of us fucking and like put those up and just see how disgusting it truly is and see if I could make him throw up. Yeah. But it's probably not the best decision. So I chose not to.
There's probably a bit of a cost-benefit calculation there that you need to consider.
Yeah, right. I know, but in the moment, my only thing is, how can I really fuck somebody up?
Yep. Yeah. All right. So my last one here. Oh, sorry. You know what? The Moon Boot Lover album I was referring to, I've got it written down here, is Back on Earth. That's the one with the Alien Vacation track. But that's not, I'm not going to use that because I've already mentioned them, so I don't want to use up one of my slots. So I was going to go with the Porcupine Tree, and I would go with either like sort of In Absentia or Deadwing would be probably the two for at least for a first time listener for them to get into. But I'm going to go with something a little bit different, which is a band called OSI. You ever heard of them?
We actually did one of their songs for the Freedom Song 365 project.
Cool. Yeah, so their
album did the song OSI.
Yeah, okay. Is that their first album? I think it's called OSI or Office of Strategic Influence or something.
I mean, it's actually based off of a real thing, from what I understand.
Yeah. But that's the first track on that album. I think it's called The New Math.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Like that track, you put that on and just crank it because it just rocks. And it's got that kind of synth with the heavy guitars. It's such a cool sound. And that whole album is kind of cool like that, where they really mix up kind of the synths with the heavy guitars. And actually Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree sings on one track on that album as well.
He does. In general, that band OSI was a bit of a super group anyways, because it was dudes from, I can't remember who it was that put it together.
I think it's the keyboardist from Dream Theater and the guitarist from Fate's Warning.
That sounds correct.
Which are both bands that I've never listened to. and again, it's one of these things where like I call myself a prog fan, but there's all this like canonical prog stuff that I've never actually gotten into.
Yeah, but I mean, we actually have an episode that I haven't run yet. It's probably going to be a bonus show. We had our buddy Trey in, and we talked specifically about like we did an episode as a primer to prog.
Yeah.
And it's a little over an hour long, I think. And essentially you get to the end of it and you're like, we got to do a second episode to talk about all the new stuff. Because, we focused on Yes and Genesis and all that old prog. And we mentioned some of like the new Animals as leaders and the more like metal-y prog.
Yeah.
But in general, we really didn't get too deep into modern prog at all. So we have to do a whole modern prog primer.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll be listening for that one because I have no clue what's out these days, like any of the new bands.
I can tell you right now. Honestly, based on what stuff you've talked about, that we talked about them a while back. Vola, you should listen to their album.
Is that VOLA?
Yeah. Okay. Applause from a Distant Crowd. It was actually one of my picks a couple months ago. Would have been right about. Would it have been about Christmas, or would it have been even before that?
Yeah, I was in that.
But the record is just unbelievable, and to me, it's like 12-Foot Ninja meets Porcupine Tree. Like it gets a little bit more into the metal-y guitar sound, but the dude has this very, very Scandinavian soft voice. Like he sings very melodically. It's not like an aggressive style of music.
I think that's why. Like I tried listening to Dream Theater recently, and I think that's why I can't get into them. Is that sort of? It's almost like that hair metal band sound, like like the vocals are just kind of over the top, dramatic.
Yeah, no, this
It's not
dude
that it's
is the
bad,
exact
it's
opposite
like it
of that.
doesn't- Yeah,
Like,
that's what like Porcupine Trees like that. You know, they're much more subtle with the vocals as well.
yeah, and I think there's a moment where it's almost got like these Peter Gabriel notes in the way he sings some stuff that I really, really liked, and like, but you have that, and some of the music, it's this very, I won't say symphonic. What is the word? It's what is the word I used for it when I was describing it to you, Liz? It's almost like score to a movie. It's cinematic.
Cinematic, yeah.
The music is very cinematic and just really, really interesting. It has these, like, there's moments where it kicks in and it's just so moving and powerful. And like the way that the riff just comes, like you put on a good set of headphones and you're gonna get lost in the record. A lot of like, apparently I think they used to be a little bit more metal oriented. And so a lot of their fans kind of turned on them for that, because they went more, I won't say pop, I will say they went more listenable.
Yeah.
Which personally I always think is a good choice. I'm glad Mastodon went and got listenable too.
Yeah, and that's the thing with that stuff is like I can, you know, I some of this prog rock stuff I can appreciate. Okay, this is a really technical thing I'm listening to here. It's you know, it's really good in that sense, but like it just doesn't grab me.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got to have that. I've got to have the music's got to. It's just got to give me something to kind of hang on to and want to go back to it. And I think Porcupine Tree does a good job of pulling that off. But yeah, some of these, and that's the thing with prog rock is it's an investment. You know, like if I'm going to get into some new prog rock band, I'm gonna have to spend the time to sit down and listen like to the whole album 3 or 4 times.
Yes, there's no point listening to
see if I even understand what the hell's going on, you know. And it's an investment, yeah. And it's like these days, it's like, oh well, you know, I could do that, or I could throw on some Motown groove to it. You know, it's like what am I gonna do?
I generally go to the Motown, but
yeah.
I go through my phases, like, because there was like a couple months where I was just like prog album after prog album on the show, and then like, I guess I'm out of my prog phase, or there's not a lot of great prog coming out on Bandcamp this week.
Yeah.
So let's listen to this other stuff.
Yep.
But right on, man. It's a solid list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get my brother on, maybe he can supplement it. That'll be the way we kind of cheat and get 10 albums out of us.
Well, anytime your brother wants to come on, man, we'd love to have him.
For sure.
Yeah.
We got some last minute plugs here.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the podcast is Anarchitecture. What is it? Anarchitecturepodcast.com. That's us, and then we're on Twitter, Anarchitecture P. P is for podcast. We're on all the podcatchers, so if you just search for Anarchitecture on any of the podcatchers, you should find us. The band website, I don't think I've mentioned it yet in this episode. It's diametricband.com. And it's pretty basic website. You go on there and you can just listen to all the music. We've got Late to the Game, which is the live album that we did recently back in October, which is, don't listen, if you listen to that and then you go like, oh, these guys are just sloppy, like, please understand what that is. Like, that was literally, we haven't played in 10 years. We got together for a 3-hour practice session to learn 6 new songs, and then we played those songs for a crowd. So it's a little bit sloppy, but we had a great time doing it, and I think the fun that we had comes through.
Nice.
Definitely.
And then
fun.
and then our other album, Cities of Sand, which is, we recorded it back in like 2004, but we've never really released it. And so this is sort of our official release of that album now. That's really more of our proper kind of produced album. And that's got, I think, some of our best songwriting on there. And then we've also got the album that we recorded, and I think we were just out of high school. We recorded the album with our high school band, which is called Function Junction, which it's really the same band. It's only our bass player who's changed. So that's sort of the sound we had going through high school. That's all
We're
of our
at
original
the
stuff through high school.
Function Junction. What's
Yeah.
something?
We have always struggled with band names. We had I think when we first started, we were going to call ourselves like Snipe, which was like, this mythical bird. And then we did the Function Junction, which was our name kind of throughout high school, just because we thought that was kind of funny. It was kind of a jam band kind of sound.
I think Snipe is probably the best name I've heard so far that you've come up with. Just for the record.
Yeah. I'm sure there's bands out there. Like any simple name, there's got to be a band out there.
Just to be clear, the dumbest band name ever is Tool.
Yeah. No, I've got a better one for you. So after school, we had a name the band contest. It wasn't actually a contest; it was a vote. It was a New Year's Eve party at my sister's house, and we said, "Okay, guys, we're gonna name the band vote. So everyone write a name down, put it in the hat, and then we'll pull them out, and everyone can vote on them." The one that won was "Tranny in Need of Danny."
That's actually a great album title.
Which, of course, because Tranny is a transformer, our friend Dan was an electrician, and so obviously this was about a transformer that was in need of repair by an electrician. Obviously, That's what it was.
Yeah.
But this was, we actually, we had committed to it, so this was our band name for a while, but we worked out that it formed an acronym, which was Tino D, which sounded kind of cool. So for a while we called ourselves Tino D. But we kind of just got sick of that because it's kind of like, it sounds like Tenacious D, and it's sort of a joke name. So we just recently came up with this Diametric. And that's sort of a reference to the fact that we're on opposite ends of the earth. So
I'm going to be honest.
Diameter.
I'm just going to start referring to you guys as Tranny in Need of Danny.
Yeah. Well. I never should have let it out of the bag.
Yeah, you really shouldn't have, because I'm just going to tweet about it all the time now. I'm going to go and make fictional album covers for you guys.
Yeah. These days it's like I don't even know these days if it's like an offensive thing
or incredibly if it's offensive, like and that's part of the reason I love it.
A sort of tribute kind of thing, like we're in support of that whole movement. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've decided, let's just skip the drama and we'll come up with something that's, sounds a bit more like a prog band, a Diametric.
You could be famous, and you're eschewing drama.
Right. They could be famous for drama, or they could be famous for music.
Yeah, well, these days would be happy just to be actually putting out music. We're trying to set up something so that we can do some recording, sort of, opposite ends of the globe. So we're trying to get my drummer set up with a bit of a recording rig, and then we can I can lay down something with a click track, send it to him. He can do his drums, send it back to me, and then I can do the mix downs. And so we're hoping to do a bit of midlife crisis work, and try to get a few more tracks onto the disc. Nice. Yeah. So that's pretty much where we're at with the band.
Awesome, man.
And then whenever I get over there, we'll probably try to play something. Again, I don't know if we'll record it again, but probably try to play some Motown, whatever's easy. Have a good time doing it.
There you go.
Nice. Yeah. All right, boss. It has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been a good time, and forward to listening to future episodes of Sounds Like Liberty. And you guys always broaden my horizons with some new stuff to check out. Now that I've got Spotify, I can actually kind of follow through on some of that.
Nice.
Right on.
Well, make sure you subscribe to our playlist.
Yeah, so what do you do? Is that like all the albums that get recommended? Or?
No. The playlist is all the stuff that plays in the background of the show.
Okay.
It's actually what I use, like when I record the background audio. It'll I just let that hit. What do you call it? Play. Yeah. But it's a lot of it's actual libertarian musicians and stuff like that. When I have a guest on that makes music, I always ask them if they want to be put in there.
Yeah.
And if you guys get your stuff up on Spotify and you want to be put in there, you're always welcome.
Yeah, we'll have to try it out. Yeah, we threw up the webpage we had. We just threw that up in like a week just because we wanted to get it somewhere.
No, you threw it up in a week because you wanted to get on Tom Wood's show, and
that's it.
And you got the Bluehost thing, and you're like, "Hey, Tom, I mean, we used your thing, And he.
It's funny when I first contacted Tom Woods to sort of promote that we wanted to be on the show. I sent him a list. I'm like, oh, you got to check out all these albums. I'm like, okay, so here's the stuff about our podcast guy now. Here's the important stuff. Here's like, 5 albums you got to check out. And I think it was a lot of these ones that I've recommended to you guys. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Right
so,
on.
Who knows? Maybe he'll come on and he'll be listening to the same stuff I'm listening to.
He's kind of said yes, but like.
Yeah. I'm surprised. You'd think it'd be right up his alley because he's so into music.
I don't know. Like I think it's just beneath him. Like he always kind of gives me like very polite brush offs.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's Tom Woods. He doesn't have to do.
I know,
anything.
and I don't begrudge him for it.
So.
He's never said no. He did ask me who would want to listen to that, and
all of us.
And I'm
we
like,
would all want to listen to that.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, because he'll do like a whole episode of his show about prog rock. It's like, come on, man! Like, why not?
And my ace in the hole is that I had Bob Murphy on the show. I'm like, Bob came on, Tom.
Yeah.
You got to do it. And I don't think it actually did a whole lot for him that Bob was on the show. He really cared.
He didn't get the Sounds Like Liberty bump, huh?
It's all right. It's all right.
I mean, I spent money on some product, and that was one of the things I was supposed to get out of it. It took 6 months to get that. I'm going to be honest. I thought Tom was racist for a while just based off of the idea that he saw my wife was black in the video and didn't want to respond to my emails. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was a little distraught.
Yeah.
But no, eventually he pimped us out. And immediately after he pimped us out is when we started getting a lot of racist comments. So.
Oh, jeez.
There is that.
It is what it is.
Yeah, we've actually been we've been spared on the racist comments on our stuff.
Well,
we did this one series
black?
that was about like no. Yeah, so I guess maybe that's it. We did a series about like immigration, the sort of roughly open borders argument. And we had a couple guys on there who were coming at it from the sort of Stefan Molyneux angle. Oh, what about race and IQ and da-da-da? And I'm like, I engage with one guy on a couple comments and I'm like, not worth my time.
No, you just ask them what's their
what's the
end game. That's all you do. What's the point of it? Okay, so it matters.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Are you going to not treat free people like free people? Well, then you're not a libertarian, first off. So.
Yeah. Well, we still have in the plans a third episode of that series, which will have another song dedicated to that episode. Are you
going to have Molyneux on?
Yeah, and I don't. We might mention Molyneux in that episode. We've actually we recorded like half of this episode 2 years ago when we did the original series, and then we got on to other stuff. We never got back to it, but it is sort of still in the back burner, and at some point we'll do it. Mainly because we have this song idea that we want to do for it. So we're going to do the episode just so we can like do this song.
I'm
like the
really
other one we did
interested in this now.
Yeah, so the other one was this James Bond spoof, episode 7. If you listen to that, that's one that we got our dad to sing on. And but yeah, this one, I'm not going to reveal what it is, but it's going to be pretty awesome whenever it comes out. So.
Well, based on what I've heard so far, I'm expecting greatness. So.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, I have to get ready for another podcast record. So
all right.
It's been awesome having you on, boss. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right. Cheers.
Peace.
All right. See you later.
Before you say it's loud, your blood boils, the trick retreats. Cling to your rule and work till you're